Well, it is a hot real estate market here in San Diego, very difficult for buyers. So how do you win? Tyler Hagerla is here. What's up, buddy? How you doing? You're going to share with us today some top tips for buyers in this market. So timely video. These things will also probably work forever, in any type market. But where do we begin here for buyers in this market, brother?
Yeah, and I think to your point, every market it's a process, right? And so the process is a little different in a hotter market, and getting buyers up to speed, kind of quickly is the name of the game. And so, you got to start somewhere when you're buying, and whether it's a car or a house, you have a process. And a lot of times it's, hey, I found a house, I want to go see it. And they may not be ready to buy the house, but that's a good place to start. And so once we get an opportunity to start there, then we kind of cast our net a little bigger, maybe look at different areas, talk about pricing. But the most important things, and is getting buying power. How do I actually execute if I really love this house? And getting a strong approval if we're financing, right? And understanding what the numbers look like. And because in this market, you're gonna have to stretch, and you're gonna have to push all your chips into the middle of the table in order to get your offer accepted. And so we have to make sure they understand what that looks like.
Yeah, and I would say buying power and buying presentation is also important. Being able to present the power that you have as a buyer is a big deal. So in other words, even if you're not going to use that retirement account, to qualify for this loan or to put a down payment on this loan, let's show all of it. Let's show everything.
Totally.
Whatever you got, let's show it. Listen, we're going to take your name, or we're going to show your name, but we're going to take your account numbers, we're going to black those out and all that stuff. But when we show the seller who you are, showing them that you have buying power and presenting that is really, really, it may not make any difference at the end of the day. When money's money, whether it's a VA loan or a conventional loan, but it makes sellers feel better. And whatever makes sellers feel better is what we have to do.
Yeah, and we're trying to sell that buyer to the seller that they're the best buyer for their house. And in this market, the sellers are looking at, sometimes 20 offers. Maybe it's only 5, right? But they're always looking for a way to make their decision easier. They want to check the box to make their decision easier. Oh, this person's putting a little more down. That may not matter. It doesn't put more money in their pocket, but it helps them to make their decision easier. And so, hey, if you're getting gift funds from your family, I want to be able to provide those proof of funds from your family member. They may not have to use all $2 million that they have in their account, but all of a sudden now you look really strong on paper that you have a good financial backing if we're waiving our appraisal. And in this market, almost every offer, we're waiving the appraisal. Doesn't mean we're not getting an appraisal. Just means, hey, we're offering more than what this house may be worth to an appraiser, and we'll make up the difference. And as a buyer, you kind of going back to the process, you get conditioned a little bit. The first house that we go and show you, you're maybe not ready to push all those chips to the middle of the table, right? But if you've been looking for a few months and you missed out a little bit because you just quite ready to participate with what the market's doing, now all of a sudden you've felt a little bit of pain, and you're a stronger buyer at that position. And kind of goes back to casting the net too. When I work with buyers, I encourage them not to get too fixated on maybe this price point or this monthly payment or this neighborhood. I mean, really we kind of cast the net bigger, hone it in, and then that way when we are comparing things, we're comparing apples to apples, because not every house is the same. And so I have a couple, I don't know if they're tricks or just methods that I work with buyers to try to help put things into categories. So that way when you're looking at different houses, maybe even in different neighborhoods or towns or price points, it gives you a gauge to get them closer to apple decisions.
To score it, sort of?
Yeah, so I have 3 categories. It's simple. House, price, and location. And so you gauge it 1 to 10 on those 3 categories. Price is where I'm going to have to come in, because the price that the listing is at often isn't the price that it's going to sell for. So, you focus in on the house and the location, and they're independent of each other. And so if I get 3 7s across the board, that's a really good house we're putting an offer in, because nothing's perfect.
Right.
But kind of doing that a little bit, we don't, we don't have a lot of houses to show right now. You know, it used to be I did that because I had 10, 12 houses to go show, and by the end of the day, they're, you know, head spinning. What did I even look at, right? Yeah. And so getting that, you know, kind of put into a category helps with buyers.
And that sounds like it's part of the overall process, right? Getting to know the market so that the buyers can learn the market themselves. Because when you buy a home, when you do, you know, win an offer in this market, as you were saying, you have to kind of push your chips in the middle. So you have to be confident. You need to get those aces. You know, and the way that you get aces in this market is you know what you're getting into. You know and you understand, you fully understand what is the value of this home. Does it matter what the appraiser says? Does it matter what the listing price says? What is this value, the value of this home to me and my family? What are we willing to pay? That's all that really matters at the end of the day.
And buyers are smart in this market. They have never have we had so much information to provide our buyers, you know, and they can go online and at their fingertips, you know, have a lot of information to help them make those decisions. And I think kind of before that offer is accepted, there's things I need to tell my clients. And so it's setting expectations is a big part of it, because if we go into this and you know, don't really at every turn inform them of what's going on, they can get burnt out really fast. Like you just, you know, hey, this market's too crazy, these prices are insane, we're out, right? And so we try to limit that. You know, never do I want to show them a house that they can't afford. You know, and then back to the list prices and always the price. You know, that's where, as a professional, we can come in and try to limit some of that headache right off the bat. So, and one thing I do like to say, and I think it's really important for my buyers to listen to, is that, hey, no matter what, if it's a nice house in this market, there's going to be multiple offers on it. That's for me to manage. Let me put that on my shoulders. You go back to scoring the house 1 to 10, decide if you like it, and then I'm going to let you know what that price is. It may not be the price you want to pay, you know, but that's the process of figuring out, you know, the right house. If it's the right house, we'll pay the price, we'll be able to get our offer accepted, and then we can move forward. But don't get too caught up in the, you know, the market being so crazy that you can't participate. That's my job. And because I've been doing this a long time, I have relationships and I know how to, you know, ask the right questions to listing agents, because they get blown up on the phone right now and with questions, and you know, it's not an easy job to be a listing agent right now. And so if I can present them that, hey, they want to work with an agent like me that does a lot of deals, that have really informed buyers, that can, you know, get the transaction closed, right? The least amount of headaches, and they want to work with agents like me, a full-time, you know, agent.
Yeah.
So.
That's all part of I think the understanding, again, of the market for the buyer, the climate, as we say. What is the climate of this market? And, you know, when you are in a multiple offer situation, I'm old enough to remember when buyers used to actually be able to negotiate on the front end.
Yeah.
You remember that?
And they still try to. You know, they'll still.
But that's not the climate, though.
No.
The climate is what we're talking about, presentation. That's the climate. The climate is we're selling ourselves to the seller, to the listing agent. We're presenting ourselves like a boardroom pitch to them to get ourselves into what I call the open pile. You know, when you get your mail, you make 2 piles. This is the pile I'm going to open. This is the pile that's going directly in the trash.
Yeah. You
want your offer. This is how offers get sorted, right?
I love that. I love that. That's perfect.
It's exactly what happens. This offer, that's going to go over here because it's, you know, it doesn't look that strong. It was written wrong. The contract's messed up. I don't want to work with that agent. This pile. This one, ooh, big down payment, very clean. Lender already called me. Agent already called me. This pile. Right? We want to get in that pile. So not only do we need to get into that pile, which we're talking about the climate of the market, we're trying to be very real with you guys. We need to get into that pile, but then we also need to be prepared for round 2, because we're not done.
Oh yeah, no, we're just trying to get a response.
Yeah, we're trying to get in that pile to start, and then that gets us a response.
For sure. There's sometimes that the sellers and the realtor are just so excited. Oh man, this is great. We'll take it. And so I have to inform the buyer that we have to get in the conversation just to get a response, because if we don't, they may just take one that's just, you know, perfect. Yeah. They don't want to deal with a multiple counter. They don't want to go back and say highest and best. And so if you think there's money on the table, I say this. I say, hey, listen, if you really love this house and this is the house for you guys, there's got to be a number that you're willing to go to. And if I call you tomorrow and I say, hey, they went with a different offer, and in your mind, you left some money on the table, that's the number we have to go in right away.
Yeah.
And then they're still going to probably come back and say, hey, what's your highest and best?
Yeah.
And so there reaches a point where it just doesn't make sense for you, and that's okay. We'll go find the right house that you're willing to go, to that spot. But there's a lot of check boxes on a residential purchase agreement, and if you don't know how to properly write that, you get kicked to the, hey, I'm not even going to look at this pile.
Yeah. You go to the throwaway pile.
Yeah.
That's the last place you want to be when you're writing an offer on a home.
Yeah.
You're writing an offer because you want it. And here's some quick math for you. So every $10,000 is about $50 a month.
Give or take, yeah.
Roughly, right? It could be lower at a lower price point, but just roughly every $10,000 extra that you're borrowing is going to be about $50 a month. So just keep that in mind. When you're at a point with something like, hey, they want us to go another $20,000, it's $100 a month. So a lot of times it's the payment that matters. Mm-hmm. So run those numbers. Have your lender run those numbers. Look at it. Hey, what if we write it at this? What if we write it at this? What if we write it at this? Get all three options. Look and see those payment numbers. See those figures up front and know. And that way you'll go, okay, that works for us, or we can't do that, because sometimes people will do it too late.
Totally.
They're waiting around, they're trying to figure it out, they're talking to each other, they're waiting until everyone's off work. Meanwhile, the listing agent is still talking to offers, they're reviewing things, they're making decisions while we're trying to figure it out. We finally figure it out. Oh, okay, yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, let's go for the top price then. Too late. And that happens all the time. So, know what those numbers are ahead of time. If you're comfortable with it, go for it. Mm-hmm. That's the best thing you can do, is go for it. Because the good news is, can we give some good news
for
the buyers?
Sure.
Here's the good news. The good news is your offer gets accepted, they're handing you the keys to the transaction. You now have the wheel, right?
You at least have an option to put it through your process, sleep on it a couple of nights, go do a home inspection, get intimate with the home. You've at least got yourself that opportunity. Because so often, for especially first-time home buyers, just writing an offer feels very final. Feels like this is, But as a buyer, you have, we do shorten the time frame. To instead of being 17 days for an inspection period, we're down to like 5 or 7 days now, which I can operate in. I have a great group of inspectors that I get first priority to get an inspection done. I got a line of other things. If the general inspection comes back with more stuff, I have a guy that roofing, electrical, plumbing, all those things. So we definitely can operate in that shorter time frame. And I think that's really important too, because you get caught up in writing these offers and say you went more than you were capable of doing. You didn't have a lender run the numbers to say, hey, oh my gosh, that's what the monthly looks like right now.
Yeah.
And now you're here, and now you're finding out stuff's going on with the house, and you jeopardize your strength of your position because you didn't really know. And I let the listing agents, hey, we've already been over the numbers. We're intimate with what these numbers look like. They're solid, right? And so the work doesn't stop once you get your offer accepted. No. And I think that's important to know too, with what type of agents you're working with. I tell my clients, hey, I'm treating this like I bought the house. If there's another inspection that needs to be done, so that way we know what we're buying, we're gonna do it. And if there's maybe some money on the table to ask for a credit or ask for something to be fixed, I'm not afraid to ask for those things, because it's in everybody's best interest to get the house, handed over in the right way, so that way in 6 months we're not dealing with problems that we should have probably done something. And I see that happen a lot too.
That does. Yeah, you're right. And so by having the keys sort of handed over to the buyer once the offer is accepted, now it's up to you to perform. Do your due diligence, but the house is off the market. They cannot take another offer over the top of yours. Mm-hmm. You are in contract to buy that home, so you have the hand now. So it's not all bad. Just remember, when you get your offer accepted, now it's on you, and you can look at the home. You can get intimate with the home. You can get under the hood, as I like to say, and see what's really going on there with an inspection, maybe multiple inspections, depending upon if there's a septic or something, you may want to have that looked at. You can do all that stuff and still have time to get out of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're not fully committed. And I'm not saying people should write offers willy-nilly, but I just want you to understand that you still have time to make sure you know what you're getting into. That doesn't mean you should be reckless about it. That means be informed about it, be prepared to execute on what you're offering, but know that you still have time to check under the hood of that thing and to make sure that it is what you thought it was. And I think that is something that you're right. A lot of people feel that those offers are final. Hey, it was signed, our deposit's gone. Yeah. That's not how it works.
No, it doesn't work like that.
You have protections, and when you have great professionals, like Tyler, for example, then you will be protected. They will always look out for you and make sure that you're not getting in too far for yourself. So one last thing I want to ask you.
Sure.
For the buyer out there, maybe this would be like a top tip or a hint or something. For the buyer out there who maybe has already been discouraged by this market, I have a lot of people following this YouTube who are in this boat, where they got involved in the market, got discouraged by it, and just sort of went quiet, got dormant, exited stage left, whatever you want to say, but they're still looking and they're still seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
What bit of encouragement or advice would you give them about their next round and go at this thing?
Yeah, and I think it's easy to get frustrated, and the buyers in this market, it's not easy being a buyer. Like really in any market, it's kind of tough, for that, but now it's even harder. And I think it kind of goes back to expectations. If we got into this and you're working with an agent, you put in some offers and you didn't get responded back, you were in the pile that never got opened. And if you didn't get educated on how to be a strong buyer, then you never had a shot. And so you set yourself up to, kind of get into that spot, right? And so I have buyers that come to me that were maybe working with somebody else or, cooled off a year ago and come back, and it's really, the market is what it is, and it's just getting them up to speed on that. And I think getting, sometimes it takes missing out on a couple of houses, or maybe kind of, having that process drug out a little bit before you're finally ready to go. Yeah. And I think the one thing I would say is if you're not actively out looking at houses, you're not going to buy a house. You're not going to find the house that you love and makes sense, because the good deals right now are the ones that do get their offer accepted. There's very few homes that are for sale. There's tons of buyers that would like to buy, and on every house there's people that didn't get that house, and so the person that did, that was the good deal.
Yeah.
That was the house that made sense for them. And I think giving yourself a better shot and not setting yourself up for some of that frustration is where I've built a team around me to help provide that buying power to anybody really in this market.
I agree. I think a lot of people have unfortunately been set up for failure, and that's what they've gotten. And so if you're going to recast your line into the ocean that is this market, making sure you understand what it looks like to set yourself up for success. What does that actually look like? How will that impact you, your finances, your monthly payment, the cash on hand, the presentation of you as a buyer to the seller? How does all of that need to change? Because obviously it doesn't make sense to do the same thing again. You got to recast yourself. And so I think that is something that if you're a buyer who missed out on this market, who's looking at it going, gosh, I should just held my nose and just bought whatever I found, 2 years ago when I was looking, you would have crushed it. You would have, but that's over now.
Yeah, that's real estate hindsight.
Yeah, that's just hindsight in real estate. Go back as far as you want on the timeline. What we have to do is we have to look at what are we going to do now? What are we going to do today to make things better? Mr. Hagerla, good to see you, man.
Thanks for, appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Let's share this with your friends and help make them smarter than everyone else, guys.